We start with breaking news here on RT International this hour. President Donald Trump takes aim at the U.S. intelligence community, accusing it of illegally handing classified information to the mainstream media, quote, like candy. Now, this comes as media reports citing unnamed sources claim Donald Trump's team was in contact with Russian intelligence during his election campaign, sparking more hysteria over the new president's alleged links to Moscow. The U.S. military confirms to RT that its airstrikes in Syria used depleted uranium known to cause cancer and generations of birth defects. That's despite the Pentagon insisting in the past it wouldn't use the toxic substance in military campaigns. From research hub to center of unrest, RT reveals the German University of Hamburg has become a platform for left-wing radicals, planning to hijack July's G20 meeting.
After getting together at the university, the groups are heading towards the future protest site. They're calling this a tour, and they're being followed by police.
Watching RT International live from Moscow with me, Marina Joshi. We'll begin with breaking news this hour. Donald Trump has accused the mainstream media of spreading conspiracy theories and blind hatred and questioned the legality of the leaks provided to various outlets. Now, this was his reaction to today's headlines, alleging that his team had contacts with Russian intelligence.
High-level advisors close to then-presidential nominee Donald Trump were in constant communication during the campaign with Russians known to U.S. intelligence. This is according to multiple current and former intelligence, law enforcement, and administration officials.
All right, and Kate is with us. Kate Partridge is here with us in the studio. She's been keeping an eye on the story all day today. Well, Kate, what's going on? It looks like a full-blown war at the White House.
It certainly does, between some members of the intelligence community and the Trump administration. And as we saw in the tweet by Donald Trump, the president himself, he directly names the FBI and the NSA as giving illegal information to the media. And this follows on from the report in the New York Times that said 4 current and former American officials alerted the media over alleged contacts with Russia. Now, according to the media, American law enforcement and the intelligence agencies intercepted the communications, which were happening at roughly the same time as the American election campaign, and they noted them due to their frequency and also the level of the advisors in Trump's campaign. It also coincided at a time when Donald Trump was talking in glowing terms about Vladimir Putin. Well, the intelligence agencies then tried to find out if the Trump campaign was colluding with alleged Russian hackers in the election campaign, and so far the media says the officials couldn't find any evidence to back that up. But the White House thinks that this could threaten national security.
When we have government employees that are entrusted with this and then leak it out, that undermines our national security.
Well, certainly what comes to mind is a question about the media and its role in all of this.
Well, yes, I mean, they had a big role in all of this. Firstly, CNN comes out with a story all about the security advisor, Michael Flynn. They're saying he resigned on Tuesday due to links with Russia. And they also implied that this could be treason.
This isn't just sort of a casual violation of the Logan Act. This is sort of a direct and, you know, maybe even treasonous activity.
Well, you know, certainly when we look at situations like this, the question of double standards springs up to mind as well. I mean, sometimes media picks and chooses what to report on or what not to report on, what to highlight and what not to highlight. But isn't leaking such information a criminal offense?
Well, yes, it is, but how it's viewed or punished very much depends on which side that you're on. The Obama administration was very tough on whistleblowers. They were the most stringent, apparently, since Richard Nixon's time. But now Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, now that they're on the other side, effectively lauding the outing of Flynn by saying fire Flynn, some of all the other hashtags that came through on Twitter. They're saying that it's in the public interest. But if you look at other whistleblowers that have been implicated with links to Russia, particularly Julian Assange, Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning, then they're deemed as liable for prosecution. And if you look at the consequences of what happened to them in prison, one's on the run, one's effectively incarcerated within the Ecuadorian embassy, then you appreciate that there seems to be a double standard going on here, because when it comes to Trump and his alleged links to Russia, then there's one set of treatment, and then it seems to be it's in the public interest to talk about these things.
So many facets to one and the same story there. Well, Kate, thanks so much for bringing us this update. Kate Partridge here in the studio. And Stephanie Gibault, a UBS bank whistleblower, told us that leaks will always be viewed differently depending on who benefits from the information coming to light.
What I think as a whistleblower is that media information is absolutely important for everyone, for all the citizens. Now, what really matters is the independence of the media. Now that information is being published, who is it good for? Is it good for the citizens? Is it good for freedom of speech? Or is it good for other hidden actions? What I understand is that some leaks are good and some leaks are considered to being not desired. And according to who leaks what, then we can be considered as traitors.
Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, bookmakers in the UK are taking bets on whether Trump will even complete his first term in office. RT's Polly Boyko took to the streets of London to see where people are placing their money.
How long can he last? That is the question plaguing Donald Trump at the moment. In fact, it's hardly surprising given the interest that the mainstream media has in discussing / fantasizing about all the various ways in which he could lose power. Will he resign? Will he be impeached? Or might he even be assassinated? Well, you can bet on it. Gambling shops the world over are making money off Trump's so far tumultuous presidency. And one UK bookmaker has said that customers are flocking to place bets on multitudes of eventualities. Would you bet on him losing his job?
Yes.
Really?
I would.
It's wishful thinking. I hope he gets impeached.
I would bet that he's not going to last another 6 months.
Why?
Because his politics are just stupid. What he's trying to do is just trying to make World War III or something.
Because he's an idiot. And I don't like Donald Trump.
Why do you...
Don't like what he stands for.
He just doesn't fit. He doesn't look like a president.
But who's told you that?
Newspapers, TV channels.
The only TV station where I think is very biased is CNN. It's CNN that's carrying all this fake news. It is the media and it is the Democrats who are pushing the media to do this. Give him a chance.
I think it's the media. You see, they want who they want in.
The established world order has been shaken because of Donald Trump and Russia. The claims in a report released ahead of this year's annual Munich Security Conference. It portrays Brexit, the election of the new U.S. president, and of course the Kremlin as global threats. RT's Murad Gizdiev has been taking a closer look.
Post-truth, post-West, and post-order. What does it mean?
Let me help. Post-truth, an age where emotions trump facts. Post-West, where America, Europe no longer matter. Post-order, a world of anarchy, lawlessness, violence, and chaos. Spooky. You'd think that they were discussing life on Earth after an asteroid impact. But no, it's more about how to blame everything that's gone wrong in the world on Russia.
A new level of fake news, of hybrid warfare, of using the digital world to disseminate information that is nothing but propaganda.
Just look at what Russia did during the US election. All that hacking. And since we're in the post-truth age, all of that is entirely based on US intelligence opinion. They say so themselves, no facts. Still, Europe is entirely likely to be next.
Are we entering an era of illiberalism where authoritarian governments are going to replace more and more traditional Western value-based democracies? Question mark.
Sure looks that way. Did you know that a third of right-wing voters in Germany trust Putin more than Angela Merkel? not surprising. You know what is shocking? The same poll found that 30% of left-wing voters also trust Putin more than Merkel. Question, what does that show? That people trust Putin more or that they distrust Merkel?
This decline of the West, the disappearance of the classic leadership nation of the West.
The problem is that other than sanction this or bomb that, the West hasn't really had a Middle East policy.
On the biggest question of all, from which everything else flows, the question of US responsibility for global order, Trump clearly has little interest in continuing to shoulder that burden. The US is, for now, out of the world order business.
The authors seem upset that after Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Trump and his voters seem to have learned their lesson. And not just them. Recent events in Syria, the ongoing ceasefire, talks, Russia.
Nowhere have the new realities become more apparent than in Syria. Backed by Iran and Russia, President Assad recently achieved his most significant victory, the fall of Aleppo.
Ah, yes, the Russian threat. The boogeyman that can magically invade anywhere, anytime, for any reason, with an army that is actually tiny in comparison to NATO. After all, that's all that Russia dreams of doing.
Russia has been problematic in a lot of ways. For example, with Crimea. This is not the way, again, the way they put it, the Western order is supposed to be. But let's be honest, we need to work with Russia, right? We'd prefer to be in a world where the West and the United States works with Russia as opposed to being at each other's throats, right? That's obviously a world we all want to live in. The Bush administration tried to work with Putin and the Russians. So has the Obama administration. So for people to get scared that Donald Trump wants to work with Russia, why would he want to work with Russia? I think it totally makes sense. I think the report itself is frankly hysterical. I think this hysteria that we're seeing in the media and in these white papers, like in the Munich report, I think they're overblown. I think they're ridiculous. I think in some cases they're even offensive.
We even got an honorable mention. They wrote about RT's budget, which they said was $400 million. In reality, it's $220 million. We received a quick apology and a promise to contact the researchers responsible for the mistake. What can you say? Welcome to the post-truth world.
The U.S. military admits to using a radioactive substance known to cause cancer and generations of birth defects in the coalition bombing campaign in Syria. That story and more after a short break.
Most people think to stand out in this business, you need to be the first one on top of the story or the person with the loudest voice or the biggest ratings. In truth, to stand out in the news business, you just need to ask the right questions and demand the right answers. Question more.
People with stories to tell. Those who deserve to be heard. Studied inside out, but still with unrevealed secrets. Leaders, politicians, thinkers, and witnesses. They're here to speak. Are you there to hear?
Welcome back. You're watching RT International. The Pentagon's confirmed to RT that despite previously vowing it wouldn't use depleted uranium in Syria, it's in fact fired thousands of rounds containing the toxic substance during the U.S.-led anti-ISIL operation. Well, let's now take a closer look at what depleted uranium actually is and why it's so dangerous. DU, as it is known, is a toxic and radioactive compound used in armor-piercing munitions. And many scientists claim it can damage people's DNA, and the substance can affect the nervous system, heart, liver, and kidneys. Birth defects over generations include babies born with no heads and missing limbs. So the Pentagon has admitted to using 5,000 rounds of depleted uranium in 2 incidents. Now, this is an official video of the first raid showing the bombing of an Islamic State oil convoy. And these coalition strikes are part of Operation Inherent Resolve, aimed at crippling the infrastructure used by ISIL to fund itself through oil production. Ganesh Chikam takes a closer look at the story.
U.S. Central Command wrote us that the military had used depleted uranium to destroy over 330 trucks, which ISIL was using to transport its illicit oil. These airstrikes took place in November of 2015 in Syria. CENTCOM said that the U.S. military had fired over 5,200 rounds containing depleted uranium and high explosive incendiary materials during these operations. Depleted uranium is known to be very effective at destroying armored vehicles, including tanks. But its use has been extremely controversial, as it is believed that people's exposure to the material can cause cancer and birth defects. The U.S. military's use of this toxic material contradicts what U.S. officials had said earlier, which was that they would not use depleted uranium. In March of 2015, coalition spokesman John Moore was quoted as saying, U.S. and coalition aircraft have not been and will not be using depleted uranium munitions in Iraq or Syria during Operation Inherent Resolve. It is unclear how many Syrians were or will be exposed to the toxic material, but its use in densely populated areas during the American invasion of Iraq had a major blowback. It was partly because of the blowback from Iraq that officials gave assurances that the military would not use the material again. But it turns out years later, they did.
Anti-war activist Richard Becker believes the use of the substance could well amount to a war crime.
Depleted uranium weaponry should be banned, and depleted uranium often kind of vaporizes when it's fired, when it hits its target, and creates a uranium gas, a gasified form of radioactivity, which is extremely harmful and extremely dangerous to people. And the fact that they continue using it, as they did in the wars in Iraq and Yugoslavia and other wars, shows this utter lack of regard for the lives of civilians. And the idea of that the U.S. has the right to do this and then just to blatantly admit it, is really an admission, a confession to committing war crimes.
An RT investigation has found the German University of Hamburg is allowing a movement to train left-wing radicals who are planning to hijack the upcoming G20 summit in July. Ilya Petrenko has been on campus searching for the answers.
Germany's left wing plus a leaders or banksters event make for an explosive mix.
We're at the University of Hamburg, the biggest research and education institution in northern Germany.
What does Hamburg's hub of science have to do with the chemical disaster that you saw? Now that's a question.
Students have always been a solid base for grassroots movements, but for violent unrest, well, there are posters like that all around the university campus. It says hijack G20. Today, the university is hosting an 8-hour conference. for a group of left-wing networks who wouldn't want to see a G20 summit anywhere near Hamburg or actually any other city around the world.
We're discussing revolution. How can we start a revolution in Germany one day?
And so Denise told me their next big move is a massive protest at the Hamburg G20 this July. They're getting ready for it inside the uni's walls.
Revolution doesn't mean we need to take over the banks, although the time is ripe for that. But police defend the status quo, so obviously this always leads to confrontation, and we always have problems with them.
But we can't show you how the protest plan is being put together, and you won't see any more faces of those young radicals fighting for the people's social and labor rights. They said no photo or video shooting inside, and sometimes outside.
Don't film the group there.
What I did see in the lecture hall with my camera off was a collage, a detailed map, and plenty of photos of how police operated in the city at a previous summit. Clearly, the activists knew they're going to be in trouble with police as they fight for their cause. But did the university have any problem with what they were hosting?
We're not available for interview or comment.
Perhaps they were busy cleaning the walls in the bathroom. A thought from the students?
People are allowed to stand up for what they believe in. The university is an institution where we should embrace this kind of meeting.
It's very bad, and it can be dangerous for the students and for the people also. I don't have any idea why they let them do this.
You'd probably ask what the police had to say. We wondered that too, but didn't get a comment then. Well, police showed up as the sun went down.
After getting together at the university, the groups are heading towards the future protest site. They're calling this a tour, and they're being followed by police.
Yes, a tour detailing security's assumed positions and logistics.
Im Park wurde natürlich kontrolliert, Sperren und Wanden und so weiter hoch.
Kameras unsere Rechte.
Das ist einfach aufgrund der Masse von Leuten, sowohl Demonstranten wie halt auch Polizei, irgendwann sich einfach gar nichts mehr bewegt. Verstärkter Stacheldraht.
It's only for information purposes.
It looks like the police are treating this network very, very seriously.
If you look already at the logo, of course, they normally are wearing masks and they are prepared to fight. It is quite clear what they are up to or what they're trying to prepare for, but I was quite surprised that they prepare military type operation.
So, welcome to Hamburg in 5 months' time. Ilya Petrenko, RT.
And up next on RT International, Afshin Rattansi talks to the Palestinian ambassador to the UK in Going Underground.